All right, once you open this provided grasshopper, you can see, you should see this. You should see a Rhino, grasshopper model in your Rhino space. So the way how I set it up is I basically use the Docker-Foster noise to create a random topography. Then I use cut and fill in surface to apply this path. That's a path onto this topography. The path is actually constructed through multiple points. You can control. You can make changes to these points to give different shapes. So now what you want to do when you see this model is to go to Rhino and start to create some new layers. Topography. You can name the layers based on these four components here. The second is going to be water, and the third one is going to be path, and the next one going to be contours. Now you just need to bake these geometries into the corresponding layers. You might want to give some different colors to these layers so that we can see better. Let's give cyan to water. Let's give lavender to path, and maybe green to contour. All right. So right click on topography and bake into topography. Hit OK. And right click on water and bake into water and hit OK. Right click on path and bake into path and click OK. And finally contour. Hit OK. So now we can just close your grasshopper. We have a clean Rhino model. But one thing to mention is that in the water surface, it's actually, the output is both water body and those under the topography. So you might want to delete these, just leaving your water body. Yeah, if you turn on the topography, these are water and these are topography above water. Let's give it a different color, maybe brown. Yeah, here we go. Once you have a clean Rhino model, now we want to make isometric drawings, right? In command line, you just type in isometric, and viewpoint is the perspective view of this isometric view. We're just gonna do northeast, and there we go. That's your isometric view from northeast of this model. Once we have this, you want to save this view by going to named views and save it. Save as a isometric. Let's do isometric 1 in case we want to do multiple of them. Now you can access this view from here. So for example, if I somehow mess up my viewport, then I just go back to set view and isometric. There we go. You just have it back. So the next thing you want to do is to make 2D. So let's select everything and type in make 2D. View is our isometric 1, and you want to select maintain source layer and scene silhouette, as well as viewport rectangle. You want to check these, and then you just hit OK. So as you can see, because we maintain the source layer, it's within this making 2D layer. It's actually creating some sublayer which actually, maintained our source layer, where the layer come from. It's going to save us tons of time when we go into Illustrator because all of these layers can be preserved in Illustrator. Now, while you have this selected, don't click on anything else. With this selected and go to top view, as you can see, it's actually creating this making 2D view here. You just move it away while everything is selected. That's your make 2D drawing. Now, what you want to do next is to export this drawing into Illustrator. And while you have it selected, you just go to File, Export Selected, drop down menu, select Adobe Illustrator, give it a name, isometric 1, and hit Save. Here, in Export Options, you want to select Preserve Model Scale because we want to later we want to overlay a shadow or shading, simple shading onto the line work. We want to use the same scale we put here when we export that shading. So I'll just do a 1 millimeter in my model is 1 millimeter on the drawing. That should be fine. And hit OK. And let's open up our isometric drawing. So we have our drawing open. It's always going to show up in a different place other than our canvas. So we just move it back. So that's our line work. Let's go back and let's add some shadings to it. The way you want to do it is click on this little plus down here and new layout, and let's choose landscape as our orientation and hit OK. So now we created basically another layout view. It's like the layout in in CAD. It's basically where you print stuff. That's your page. That's your letter sized page. So when we have this new layout, what you want to do is double click in the viewport area. That's our viewport. Through this frame, we actually looking into the model space. We double click and enter the model space. And on the top left, drop down, we want to select set view and isometric. That's why you want to save this named view first, because we always going to access this. And it's cut off a little bit, so let's zoom out a little bit and pan it over. So you can pan and zoom in and out without distorted image, but you cannot rotate, right? So let's go back and set view and isometric and zoom out a little bit. Yep. Come back. And now the second thing you want to do is turn everything into Arctic. As you can see, there's a horizon line here. The reason is that we didn't do a ground surface beneath beneath our model. So what we want to do is actually in Rhino space, model space, create another surface that is much bigger than your model. And if we go back to our shading, as you can see, it's already, it's the horizon line is gone, but we just need to move this surface down to show more model. So that's it. Now we want to turn off our contours, only leaving the path, water, and topography. In this way, it can give us some simple shading added to our line drawing. The next thing we want to do is we want to make this drawing the same size as the line work here. One way to do it is you select your viewport and go to Property and go to Detail. Here you can actually input a value, input a scale value to change the scales. The scale we used when we export the Illustrator was 1 millimeter on page is 1 millimeter in model. and let's do the same. So this should give us a same-sized drawing, drawing as the line work. And we want to, maybe shrink the frame viewport a little bit so that, we don't see the edge of the ground surface. Now we have this drawing ready, right? We have this shading ready. We just need to print it. We want to print landscape, and yes, and let's just print desktop, and let's just name it shading, and hit save. Well, that's saved. Yep. Once we drag and drop this into our Illustrator, we can see that they're actually the same size. And we want to create a new layer called shading and move this shading drawing into the shading layer. Then you move the shading layer at the very bottom and move it to the line work so that they overlay. You have to carefully align it. There's no other way you can align it. And you just, lock the layer. Now you have a simple line work overlaid on top of a simple shading, right? Now we just need to, change the line weight and do some simple editing. One quick thing I want to talk about is the live paint. I just hide everything else but the water. Once you select everything, you can do a live paint. The shortcut is actually K on your keyboard, but you can also access live paint down here. If you scroll down on the paint, you have live paint bucket and live paint selection tool. You just drag and drop this tool in your toolbox to customize your toolbox. So that's live paint. Once you click on it, you just give it a foreground color, give it a fill color, right? And now you just can easily paint these areas. Once you paint these areas, you go to, maybe we don't want the stroke, but leaving the fill only, and we just give it a different color. Yeah, we just give it a different color and give some opacity to it. And once we turn on everything else, we just have a simple, water layer on there. And the rest are just, you just need to, individually select these layers and change your, line weight and whatnot. Right? Make it black, make it thinner, and let's go to maybe, let's lock this layer. Yeah, let's go to the hidden layer, right? Let's select all the hidden contour lines and make it even thinner. Yeah, we can make it even thinner. Go to 0.1, 0.1, and it's probably too thin. Yeah, we don't need dashed lines. It's probably too thin. We don't need dashed lines, right? There we go. And what's that? That's a visible layer. We just make it black, make it thinner, and there you go. Yeah, you just individually change these line weights. You can also use, you can always use eyedrop. don't need that layer. Yeah, the rest are just, changing these line works. Maybe make this thinner a bit. A little bit. Yep. Yep. Actually don't need this. I'll make it thinner. Yeah, here you go. Finally. Now you just basically changing the line works, line weights, and color it, whatnot, and making a isometric drawing.